Hello, welcome back. Another opportunity to talk to a wonderful, wonderful speaker called Joss Golden. And Joss is going to be talking about our ability to listen to crying and responding to tantrums. So that pretty much sums up some of the hardest parts of parenting. So welcome, Joss. Thank you so much for spending this time talking with us. Can I just ask you, the first question is, why do babies cry?
Thanks for having me on,
Back to
Tracy.
basics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's start with that. So babies cry for two reasons. The first of which is really well understood, and that is to express unmet needs. So perhaps they might be hungry, or they might be uncomfortable, or they might be in pain. As they can't talk, it's their only way of letting us know. So that's well understood. But what's less well understood is that they also cry for a second reason, and that is to express feelings. All babies experience stress and challenging situations in their young lives. Birth itself is a stressful experience for lots of babies, for most babies. And that transition from being in the womb to being out in the big wide world with all the noises and sounds and sensations that brings is stressful for children. So even if we parent our babies with closeness and great responsiveness and tenderness and love, they still experience stress. And their one way to show us and to share that with us and to let us know what they've experienced is through crying. So they cry as a way to get the stress out of their bodies. And our tears contain stress hormones. So it's literally getting stress out of their bodies. So yes, it's two very separate but connected reasons.
And I think that's the component, that's the piece of the puzzle that as parents we are not aware of. And when we've done tick the box, so you've been fed, you've had a sleep, why are you crying? Then just being able to hold that space for feelings and to recognize that that's okay, that it's okay when babies cry.
Yeah, absolutely. And initially when I became a mum, I thought that if I stopped my child from crying, I was stopping my child from hurting and having any hurts. And actually, I think it's a really crucial distinction, that understanding that the process of crying is the process of becoming unhurt. And when you see it that way, it's a totally different perspective, and it's something that we can welcome and support. And yeah, by listening to those feelings, whatever age our child is, it promotes this really profound connection and this real safety and healing experience for our children.
And it's as true for adults as it is for kids, isn't it? We forget about this. They're often a reflection of us.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting to think about some of the different ways that children experience stress, and to hold in mind that all of our children are experienced distressful events. There's always times that they have to do things that they don't want to do. There's times when they have experiences that are traumatic and difficult. As I said, that could be the birthing process, or it could be that parents experiencing stress affects our children too, and becoming a new mum is stressful for women, and most women going through that birthing process experience stress too, and that impacts on their children. So there's lots of reasons why our children have the need to express feelings in this way. And I think what's really important with this approach is that we recognize that the mother and the father are the experts in their child. So there's lots of conflicting advice out there for parents about, crying it, letting your children cry it out, and all those different things. And with all of these things, and listening to feelings too, the most important thing is for parents to learn to listen to their own feelings, and to experience for themselves whether they think their child is crying because they have an unmet need, learning to distinguish between that and crying because they have feelings to express, and all the strategies that we're going to be talking about today. Parents tune in to what their children need and what's going on for them, and they know best. So don't let anybody else tell you how to parent your child. You know in your heart really what is best for your child. So if you're trying a tool or a strategy that somebody has suggested to you, then just, does that feel right? And if it feels right and it feels okay, then it is okay. But if it doesn't, then that's also fine too. So I just always think it's important to remind everybody that, yeah, they're the expert in their child.
Yeah, I think there's so much noise around new parents, whether it be Google or social media forums and things, and it gets in the way of their own natural attunement to that baby and their ability to read the baby's cues. So one of the first things we do in our new parents groups is, stop reading Google and start reading your baby.
Yeah.
So how do parents do that, Joss? Tell us more about that.
Well, I think when we understand the process of what happens when we experience stress, then it's easier to see how, and what happens when we release stress, it's easier to see how that process works so beautifully. And with all of us, whatever our age, whether we're adults or children, when we experience stress, it creates a pain in our body. Like, we have this physiological response in our body, and if we don't have the opportunity to express that, then that gets stored in our body. And so this crying is this natural healing mechanism that allows us to get that stress out, as I've already said. There's different ways of doing that. We can do that through talking, or through shaking, or through laughter, or through the sort of movements. But for babies, it's really, and young children, it's mostly for crying. And so when we start to support our children in this way, and we start to listen to their feelings once we've met all their needs, immediate needs, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, how, we can see at the end of that process, we can observe how our children are. So if our children are in the middle of a huge tantrum, we can see the stress and the agitation and the tenseness in their bodies. And at the end of us listening to them and supporting them while they release those feelings, they feel so relaxed. They feel so calm. They jump into us and want to hug. There's that deep sense of connection. The same is true when our babies have cried. They're often, like, they're tensing their hands, or they're arching their back, or you can see in their physical body that they've got this stress and these feelings. And then after being heard and lovingly cared for while they express everything that's in their hearts, they're so relaxed. They're deeply connected. We have this beautiful eye contact. They've got this softness in their bodies. So it's through those observations, I think, that we get clearer and clearer about how to support our children, and the impact of what we're doing when we're supporting our kids this way.
And I think when we can create the time and the space to just hold that space for them as they go through those, crazy feelings and difficulties, that the storm often passes a lot quicker. Because when we do disconnect from our children and we're not present for them when they're struggling like that, then they start to find other ways to get our attention in order to feel heard and seen and understood. Yeah,
absolutely. So from an aware parenting perspective, we would say that these are all those sorts of behaviors. Anytime our child is behaving in a way that we find challenging or difficult or unenjoyable, it's a red flag. And they're literally standing there or lying there waving a flag at us, saying, I've got really strong feelings, please help me, I need support, please can you listen to how I feel. So it could be that they're waking up frequently at night. It could be that they're crying a lot as babies frequently. So even when we've met all those needs, they're still crying. It could be that they're having tantrums, or when they're older, it could be that they're being a bit aggressive, or maybe they're pulling the dog's tail, or they're fighting with their siblings, or any of these things are signs, flags for us to say, please help, I need your support right now. And then all we have to do is listen. And I say all we have to do, it's a hard thing to do, because of course it's not how most of us were raised. And many of us have lots of feelings too around listening to feelings, but gradually, through doing it a little and a little and a little, and then seeing the beautiful impact on them, it becomes easier and easier.
So what happens if parents themselves struggle with hearing a baby cry, or perhaps a child having a tantrum in public, which we all have to go through? I think that's a rite of passage as a parent, with children in public. How do parents overcome their own resistance to their children's feelings?
Well, I think one of the biggest gifts of becoming a parent is the opportunities that it gives us endlessly to heal our own stuff from our childhoods. Whether we like it or not, that comes up time and time again through parenthood. And I think the simple answer to that question is the more support that we get as parents to express how we feel, to share how we're feeling in the moment about our parenting, and also to share some of the stuff it's bringing up for us from our childhood, the easier it is to listen to children. And in fact, I would say the opposite to it, the other side of that is that we cannot actually listen to our children with loving care and presence unless we are also receiving that ourselves. It's really difficult. And for new parents, most mothers have lots of stress to share about the birth process and about the early days of being a mother. And any opportunities that we offer parents to share what's in their heart, to talk to others, to receive loving compassion and care and empathy from someone else, the easier it is to then do that for our children.
So true, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have things we would suggest, like, for example, a listening partnership where you get together with another parent who understands this way of being with our children, and you get together perhaps once a week, and you take half an hour each, and you set a timer, and for that half hour you just share what's going on for you, and the other person just listens. They don't have to fix anything, they don't have to advise you, they don't have to make it better, they just offer you empathy and validation for how you're feeling, and then you swap. Or it could be that you do like a voice note messaging system with another parent, where you just send a message saying, oh, I'm really struggling today, I'm finding it so hard, blah, blah, blah. And then the other person listens, and when they have the space and capacity, they reply and just say, I hear you, I really hear you. I know it's so hard, and I'm sending you love, and I'm thinking about you. And just that can be enough. Or having sessions with somebody who understands this way and can help you unpack some of the stories from your childhood and some of the things that are coming up for you through your parenting is also really helpful. So there's lots of ways of doing it, but I would say getting support for parents is the most important thing if you want to have a connection and a deep, beautiful, supportive relationship with your child.
So what you're describing there is what we need to do for our children, as we need to do for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have someone who can hold space for us when we deal with our own sense of stress and needing to unwind that or unload it.
Yeah. And it is difficult to listen to tears, because most of us were taught as children that it's not safe to cry and it's not okay to cry. Maybe we were punished if we cried, or maybe we had love withdrawn, or maybe we were told to suck it up and stop being such a princess, or whatever it was. Very few of us got to express how we felt and had that heard with kindness and empathy and loving care from our parent or another caregiver. So most of us are carrying around a lifetime of unheard tears ourselves. So listening to our children's tears brings up lots and lots for us. So it's really crucial.
Yeah. So Joss, how can we hold that space? Can you describe in more detail, whether it be our babies crying or our toddlers having tantrums? Just give us some ideas on that.
Yeah. So the most important thing with babies, obviously, is to make sure that all of their immediate needs have been met when they start crying. So we wouldn't move in and start listening to feelings until we felt really certain ourselves that they weren't hungry and that they were comfortable and that they didn't need a nappy change and all of those things. And obviously, if the crying becomes really, if it's loud, very high pitched, or if it's different to how they would normally cry, or we had any concerns that there might be something wrong, then we would always seek advice. So that's the first place to start. However, once we're clear that their immediate needs have all been met and they're still crying, then we can probably sense that they are crying because they need to share feelings with us. So the thing to do is just to hold your baby and let them know that you're there and you're listening. And sometimes people like to hold their children like this when they're crying, and sometimes you might want to hold your child more in that way so that you're facing each other in that way. Perhaps you might want to just lie down on a big bed or a comfy sofa and lie there with your child. Whatever position is comfortable. And sometimes this crying goes on for a while, so you want to make sure that you're in a comfortable position. And then, yeah, you just shine your loving presence onto your child, and you say, I'm here, sweetheart. I know you've got a lot to tell me, and I'm here and I'm listening, and I love you. And you just let them express what's in there, what they're feeling. And so you just stay there, and you remind yourself that the tears are not the cause of the feelings. The tears are the feelings being released. And if at any stage we feel uncomfortable, or we feel that we can't hold that space anymore, which comes up for all of us, sometimes we don't have the capacity, or we might be just starting this process. So perhaps we say, I'm just going to listen to feelings for 5 minutes. And then at the end of that process, I'm just going to soothe my baby out of the feelings, and I can go back and listen again another time, because our children will always bring it up to us another time if we're not able to listen then. And then afterwards, you just observe after they've cried, how is your baby feeling? How is their body? Are they obviously relaxed and connected to you? And then we can be really clear that this has really supported our babies. And as I said, you don't have to listen to all the feelings all the time, and you don't have to listen the whole way through if you're finding it difficult and you're tired, or perhaps they're crying and it's the middle of the night and you just want everyone to get back to sleep again. But to choose times during the day when it feels right and you feel resourced to listen is really good. So with young babies, often people find it easy at nap time to say, right, I'm going to listen to feelings now, or at a time when a child is going to sleep for the first time in the evening. So you would feed your baby, perhaps even in a different space to the space where they're going to sleep. And you would feed them perhaps, 15 minutes before they go to sleep, and finish that. And then you might take them into the bedroom and say, I'm here, sweetheart. I'm going to listen to anything you have to share. If you have anything you want to tell me, I'm here and I'm listening. And then you might listen to them crying before they fall asleep. But you might say, if they wake up in the night, as I said, and they're crying, then I'm not going to listen to feelings now, because everyone's exhausted and we just want to get back to sleep.
So in which case, then you would soothe the baby, pat the baby, feed the baby, whatever you can do to get them back to sleep.
And I would always tell my baby what I was doing as well. So I might be like, I think you might have some feelings to share with me now, sweetheart, but I'm too tired. I think we all just need to go back to sleep. So I'm just going to put you on the breast, and hopefully we'll be back to sleep again soon. And I think, our babies just get it, don't they? They get our energy, they understand our words. And so there is this idea that we have to be consistent and we always have to do the same thing for our babies to thrive. And that's just not the case. We can just let them know. And, as babies, they start off hearing that and understanding. And then that means that they, as children, older children, they get it, that sometimes mum's not there. Sometimes mum can't support them and listen. And that's okay. They know that we'll come back to it another time. Yeah. And, I didn't listen to my first child crying at all until he was 2, because I didn't know about this way of being with our children. So he never got to express feelings as a baby, and he's had lots of catching up since. So yeah, it's not something that you have to do. It's something that you choose to do when you feel adequately resourced to do it, and your baby's showing you signs that they want to share.
I really appreciate you saying that, because it isn't always easy, and we don't always have the time to just really be present. Yeah.
No. And sometimes there's lots of other people around and you sense judgment. Perhaps your in-laws have dropped in. Well, that might not be the best time to listen to feelings, or, so that's okay. You get to choose when the time is right and you have capacity. And if you don't have capacity any other time that your children are bringing it up, don't you worry, they'll bring it up again later. That's fine.
And I love how you're dialing them into the language around becoming aware of their feelings as well, by using it even when they're babies.
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
before they're expressing language themselves.
Yeah.
And what about toddlers?
Yeah, so toddlers, it's a bit different, but essentially it's the same thing. But the thing with tantrums is that they're so misunderstood, and it's seen in our society as like misbehavior or manipulation, or, there's all these memes around the internet about children having what's seen as ridiculous responses to things that, where they're having this outraged response to something that's really little. But tantrums are actually, that's a really effective way of children offloading what's going on for them, particularly feelings of outrage and frustration and disempowerment and anger and all of these big, powerful emotions. Such a healing, healthy way to get that all off their chest. So yeah, what we do when we're listening to our children in this way is just we respond to them with a calm, loving presence, and we get close and give them our attention. So if they're having a major meltdown on the floor and kicking and screaming, and again, if we have capacity to listen, we might take them away if there's other people around, because we want to be able to do this in a space where we feel calm and where it's a private, nice environment. And yeah, we just get down on the floor with them and we listen and we show them that we care. I know, sweetheart, it's so hard. You really wanted to have another story, and I'm not reading any more stories now. Or I know, sweetheart, you really wanted to play with that toy, and now Johnny's having a turn with it. I know you really wanted it. I'm here. I'm listening. I understand. And then they just go for it and they scream and they rage, and we can again just remind ourselves that all that power of getting those feelings out. These are strong feelings that our children are experiencing, big feelings
in little bodies.
In little bodies, absolutely.
Very sensitive bodies, yeah.
Yeah, so we just stay with them. And yeah, if we feel stress, we remind ourselves that they're feeling really overwhelmed right now, and they are getting to get all of this off their chest, and we can see the stress coming out of their bodies, and we can imagine how much nicer it's going to feel for them not to be holding these feelings, because once they've shared them, they're gone.
Yeah.
So once Johnny's having a tantrum about somebody taking his toy, and he's heard with loving kindness and understanding, Johnny doesn't care about the toy anymore. Johnny's free to go off and play with something else. Or maybe he does still care about the toy, but he's able to go and say, I would like a turn with the toy now, rather than. So yeah, we can just.
Johnny feels a whole lot better.
Yes, Johnny feels transformed.
But sometimes as parents of tantrums, we can feel worse because we take that on, and we can take it as a personal affront to, what am I doing wrong? And yeah, personally, I remember watching my boys have tantrums, and I was quietly impressed about the level of intensity that they could access and the honesty of it. It's like true, raw, gut-felt, honest emotions coming out of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's really important as well for parents to remember that often our children are having a huge response to a seemingly really small thing. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. We don't need to understand exactly what the cause is for them to be having this expressive outburst. And sometimes that's the final straw. They really wanted the red cup, and instead they got the blue cup. And that's just the final straw that allows them to access a buildup of feelings that they've got.
It's been accumulated over the course of however long. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And we don't need to know exactly what the cause is. We just need to let them know that we care and that we're listening while they get it all off their chest. And you can see afterwards our children are just transformed from having been heard in this way.
I think adults need to do that too.
Yes, absolutely. I frequently think,
when Peter and I'd have a big blue, we always felt better afterwards and more loving.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how else can we hold hold the space for our children to have feelings, like through play and laughter and things like that?
Yeah.
How else can we do that?
So yeah, that's also another really not well understood aspect, and that is that children release feelings through laughter and they heal through play. Absolutely. So, and this is sometimes this is something that people find more difficult, because as parents we often have this idea that it's a serious business, parenthood, and so it sometimes feels difficult to give ourselves permission to be playful and silly and fun with our children. But yes, if we allow our children the opportunity to laugh, the deep laughter, and to connect through play, and to have the chance to play lots of different kinds of games that support their healing too, then this is really powerful stuff, really, really powerful. And attachment play, as it's called, is a really central part of this approach to parenting. And it has this wonderful dual purpose. And one is that it supports deepening in our connection and our relationship with our children through having fun and having those joyful connections and that lightheartedness. But yes, it also has this possibility to solve behavior problems, as it allows our children to release and heal strong feelings that they're experiencing.
Can you describe a little bit more about what attachment play looks like?
Yeah, sure. So it's just a way, anytime our children are behaving in a way that is challenging or difficult, one option is to listen to feelings, and the other option is to move in with playfulness. And so there are actually 9 different types of attachment play that Aletha Salter describes in her book, Attachment Play. But they're all different ways of responding playfully. So it might be something like offering our children regular special time, which is where we might set a timer and say, every day I'm going to, or several times a week, I'm going to offer my children 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever we have capacity to do. And we say to our children, right, we're going to have special time now. So we do whatever our children want to do. So we follow their lead, and we are just giving them our undivided, focused attention and playfulness for that 15 minutes, for that half an hour, whatever, while the timer is on. And yeah, they choose what you do. So you follow them around and you're just like engaged and interested in what they're doing. That really, really fills our children up. So there's play that we do generally to try and make our children feel more connected. And then there's also play that we can do in the moment to respond to particular challenges with behavior. And often that's things like, being ridiculous and getting things wrong and being silly. So for example, if our children don't like getting into the car seat and being strapped into their car seat, we might run to the car and we jump into their car seat and we act all surprised and shocked that we can't strap ourselves in and that they should be driving. No, but you said you were going to drive today and I'm sitting in the back, and being silly. And any time where our children get to saying, no mummy, you've got it wrong, you're silly, and they get to be the knowledgeable, powerful, strong ones, it's really, really helpful for them. It could be something simple like reading a book at bedtime, and we bring the book out and we have it upside down, and then we don't understand why we can't read the words anymore. Or we might start at the beginning. One that I used to love doing with my children was start at the beginning of the book and you say once upon a time, and then you flick right to the end and you say the end, good night, and you put the book down, and the children go, no mummy, you got it wrong. So anything where they're getting, and it can be like lots of physical games are really good with children, like wrestling, and you're always giving them a nice edge to push up to, but you're allowing them to be the stronger one. So in a wrestle, they would always win, and you would be surprised and shocked that they've managed to push you off the bed, or whatever it is that you're playing. It could be games where you're chasing and they get to catch you, or games where you're chasing them and you can't quite catch them and they get away. Any of those things where they get to be the powerful one. And I think with play, the thing to remember is that our children are geniuses. This is their language. So if we get out of the way and don't overthink it too much, they will show us exactly what they need to be doing through play and what they need to be exploring in order to heal things that have come up. So we find, for example, if you have to take your child to the doctor, then often if you go home and you give them the space to play with them and you're observing them, they might bring out dolls and play, doctors and patients with their dolls. Or, if they've got a new baby coming into the family, they might automatically start playing with their teddies, and teddies had a baby and that kind of thing. So lots of trust there, following their lead. And yeah, just any opportunity we can to be silly and foolish, whatever age our children are, is really, really helpful. Yeah.
Sometimes I've had parents talk to me about their resistance to playing with their child, and I often sort of say to them, include them in your world then. If you don't want to get down and engage with them in trucks or whatever, invite them into your world and play with them in your world. So whether it's putting out the washing or cooking dinner and having fun that way.
Yeah, that's really lovely, isn't it? When it's done with that deliberate intention of connection. It makes it really easy for our children to contribute and to get involved. And sometimes when you don't want to play, that in itself can be playful. So my son used to want to play trains constantly when my daughter was born. I mean, all he wanted to do was play trains, and I got to the stage where I was just like, I hated trains. But you can even respond in a playful way for that. So he could say, Mom, can we go and play trains? And I could go, no, I can't, Mummy, surely I don't have to play trains. Please, please, please don't make me play trains. Really? And he would say, yes, Mummy, come on, you have to play trains. Oh, please, but I don't like trains. And being playful about it, so it's a knack, and it's something to practice, and some people find it easy and some people don't, and but if it's something that you can enjoy, and even if it's something that you just do a little bit or just do some of, so if you don't really like playing trains but you do it as a special time activity, then that's a finite time when you're going to go and play trains. You know that you're not going to have to play for hours and hours. You're just going to play for 15 minutes, and then you can actually devote yourself wholeheartedly to the trains, because it's going to end. And when the timer goes off, if our children have feelings to express, that's when they're going to come up, and that's fine. We can say, I know, sweetheart, you really wanted to keep playing trains, and we're not going to play anymore because special time's over. And they can cry about how upset they are that they want to keep playing. And that doesn't mean that we have to go, oh yes, okay, we'll play trains some more. We just say, I know, sweetheart, I hear you. I know you really wanted to keep playing, but special time's over now. We'll play again tomorrow.
We can fall into that trap of wanting to placate them because they are having big emotions. But recognizing that, no, this is the way it is. And it's okay for you to feel that way. And I hear that you're disappointed. That's really beautiful, because sometimes we can go the opposite, and we're running after them, placating them at every turn.
Or we might be feeling annoyed and grumpy. We might be like, hang on a minute, I've just given you 15 minutes of my undivided attention, and I've got so much on. That's really unfair. So we might go into all that thinking too. So instead, when we just know what we have to do, it's like giving limits in a really loving way. That's all we have to do. Yeah, I know. I hear you.
Loving limits. I love it. How do we get it wrong, Joss?
Well, we all do, inevitably, many, 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 many times. So, perhaps we can't listen. Perhaps we lose our temper. Perhaps we, misinterpret signals. Whatever it is, that's going to happen. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. And I think the first thing that we have to learn to do is to give ourselves lots and lots of compassion and understanding about that, because I've been parenting this way for 16 years and I still make mistakes frequently. I lose opportunities for connection, or I get my limits wrong and I end up being not very loving in them or not very limiting in them. And it happens to all of us. And I think what's really beautiful, Aletha Salter, who is the founder of Aware Parenting, she has this lovely line where she says, healthy families are not one which are free of conflict. They're ones where conflict is handled in a way that leaves everybody feeling loved. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that we can't always get it right, and that's okay. So the things to do when we don't get it right and we make mistakes, or we respond to our children in a way that we don't want to, is that we see that as a sign that we need some more support, actually. So the first thing that we do is we find ways, whatever way we can, to meet our needs and to have our feelings heard. So even if it's just like a cup of tea in the sunshine for 10 minutes, or leave the laundry pile and just go and listen to a meditation, or don't worry about the state of your house and go and get in the bath, or call your listening partner, or whatever. So but just receiving compassion and offering that to ourselves is really the first step when we get things wrong. And I love that we then are able to always rewind and repair and do a reconnection with our children. So if it's that we've lost our temper with them and got angry, we can go and we can reconnect, and we can say, I'm so sorry, sweetheart, I lost my temper with you, and I really felt so tired and so stressed in that moment, but you didn't deserve for me to talk to you like that, and you always deserve for me to treat you with love and kindness. And are you willing to rewind with me? Can we go back and do this again, and can we reconnect? And maybe we might have a conversation, depending on the age of the child, about how they felt, or they might say, yeah, mommy, I was really sad, and then we can listen to their feelings. I know, sweetheart, it's really not nice when mummy shouts at you, or whatever it is.
And that's the stuff of rich learning. Like that's because sometimes as parents, I think we get into this idea that we've got to respond well. And when we fall short, we think, oh no, you know, that's terrible and I shouldn't have done that. And we give ourselves a hard time when in actual fact, you can come full circle with a moment like that.
Absolutely.
I often tell a story where I don't know, I think it was raining and I was inside with three of my little boys and they were driving me crazy. And I think I'd started to yell and then I thought, oh, I've got to get them outside. So I packed them all up in the car and I was cranky and they were cranky. And I had the three of them sitting side by side in the back seat and they're fighting and going off at each other. And I'm driving the car feeling like, oh my God, this is just so hard. And I was tired. I was on my own. I was unsupported. I was feeling right in the throes of it. And then I just kind of just let whatever was happening in the back seat happen. And I just kind of breathed and relaxed a little bit. And what ended up happening is within a very short time, they'd gone from being cranky with each other to laughing. And as we were driving, I said to the boys, hey, boys, isn't it funny how 1 minute you can be really angry with each other and the next minute you're laughing and having fun and enjoying each other? And they sort of, yeah. And I said, that's interesting thing of how anger comes and goes. And when I was angry with you at home, that's gone now. I feel like it's gone now. But you know what? One of the things that never goes is my love for you. Oh. And even though my anger might look scary, my love is far more powerful and it never disappears. And we had a discussion about love as a result of it. And it ended up being a really beautiful, you know, time. And by the time they got out of the car, they were much happier and they'd released their tension. And on some level, I'd release mine. But for me, it was that bringing it full circle and being able to forgive myself for my shortcomings in that moment, but also to turn it into a realization that anger is going to come and go and that love is the thing that's always left behind. And it was a beautiful moment in the end. So,
yeah. Oh, that's a gorgeous story. Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that myself time and time again, that these opportunities to reconnect after things have gone wrong, take your relationship with your children to the next level each time. You have this new profound, deep connection to your love for each other and a deepening in the your understanding of each other too. And yeah, I've seen it time and time again. Absolutely. And the other thing I love about it is it models to our children that it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to not do things how we would like to have done them, as long as we just keep coming back to, you know, trying again. And that liberates our children from all that sort of perfectionism that we sometimes feel. And it means that when they're parents, they're going to be so much kinder to themselves and they're going to be so much less sort of unrealistic in their expectations of what they're able to do. And that's liberating in itself. So yeah, I think getting it wrong is often where the real gifts lie to getting it more right. Yeah.
I've often said in my groups, I said it this morning actually, that parenting is a spiritual practice and your children are your greatest teachers. Absolutely. And if you can see it from that perspective as well, you can appreciate the hard parts, because the hard parts is where you grow and where you have to overcome yourself and forgive yourself. And it's an opportunity to become more aware of those parts within yourself that need healing or rebalancing or upgrading to the parent, rather than those, you know, hurt parts inside of us. And I'm sure my boys on so many levels have helped me over the years to become way more compassionate for my imperfection and my humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And by responding to our children in this way and listening to their feelings, and by showing them that we respond to ourselves in this way and listen to our feelings. Yes. And I think as well, like when we respond to ourselves with loving compassion and kindness, and when we're also listening to our children's feelings with compassion, it really teaches our kids to be so compassionate as well. And recently I lost my temper with my daughter, and afterwards when we were reconnecting and I said I'm sorry, and I was apologizing and saying, oh, I wasn't really a very aware parent today, was I? And she just laughed and she said, you know, Mum, just because you're a parenting expert, it doesn't mean you always have to be an expert parent. And I just thought, you know, she never would know to speak like that if that hadn't been how she was spoken to, and how she has increasingly seen me speaking to myself. So it's just, yeah, this beautiful virtuous circle that goes on and means that they're going to be free of that.
So tell me more about then when you do bring in this level of awareness into your parenting and you are able to hold space and recognise the importance of our little ones being able to express who they are and their feelings. What can people imagine to be the outcome of that type of awareness? I think it's great.
Well, I think I often say to parents, you know, what do you want your relationship to be like with your children in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time? You know, how do you want your children to feel? How do you want them to feel when they look back on their childhood, about how their childhood was? And when we support our children in this way and we listen to their feelings, our children feel unconditionally loved. They feel that however they show up in our parenting adventures, we love them. We accept them, however they're behaving. We don't necessarily accept the behavior, but we always accept them, however they're behaving. So they feel that all their feelings are welcome, and they feel that it's safe to come and tell us how they feel. So, you know, when they're young, that's wonderful. And when they're older, when they're teenagers, you don't have that disconnection in your relationship with your teens. They come to you when they have things to share. And, you know, my children both still share pretty much daily how they're feeling with me. So as well as knowing that it's safe to express their feelings, they also grow up knowing that they don't have to repress their feelings. I mean, sometimes, of course, we all do when there's, you know, it's not the right time to be sharing how they feel, but they're much less likely to be developing behaviors and patterns that are to repress feelings. So they're much less likely to be, you know, drinking lots of alcohol or needing drugs or, you know, those sorts of things to repress feelings, because they know that they have an outlet. And they've released a lot of their feelings through their childhood. So they're not carrying around this burden of unexpressed feelings and unheard trauma, unreleased trauma. They know that our relationship with them is more important than how they behave, and that's our priority. So again, if they make mistakes, so they get into trouble as teenagers, or they, you know, do silly things, which, let's face it, we all do. They know that it's safe to ask for help. They know that it's safe to let us know, and they know that, you know, we will be there to support them, that we're their ally and that we're on their side, and that we will take care of them, and that their well-being and their emotional well-being and their physical safety is more important than anything else. They understand deeply from personal experience that they can heal anytime from stress and trauma. So anything that comes up in their life that is difficult, they know that they have the skills and the tools and the support systems in place to heal from that, and that they can increasingly do that for themselves. And once our children get the opportunity to express feelings and they're not agitated and carrying this all around with them in their bodies, they are much more likely to be cooperative, to be kind, to be empathic, to be loving, and to be generous, because that's how they've been treated with all those things. So that becomes their internal dialogue, and that's how they behave. And yeah, I think that is really important, that their internal voice is a really kind one. They're much less likely than those of us who were brought up with less of this loving approach, and we tend to have an inner dialogue that can be a bit harsh at times or a bit unkind. Their inner dialogue is much more likely to be friendly and loving and nice. And they know that they don't have to betray their needs or betray their feelings in order to get approval or love. They know that they can get approval or love and stay really closely connected with their needs, getting their needs met and expressing how they feel. And at the end of the day, our relationship with our children is just so extraordinary and deep and beautiful and profound and nourishing for everybody. So yeah, if you want to have a good relationship with your children, this is how you do it. And the result is these beautiful connections.
That sounds like a pretty damn good payoff to me.
I reckon. And
I
all the
like that.
benefits, all the benefits that we get for ourselves in this process too, through
It
having
comes back
beautiful relationships with our children and through learning to heal and express for ourselves and all those sorts of things. So yeah, it's win-win for everybody. And sometimes parents say, but if I respond to my children in this way, won't they be needy, or won't they be spoiled, or all those things? And it's actually completely the opposite. And I know lots of people now who have grown-up children who've been parented this way, and this is how they are, and this is how their relationship is with their parent.
Tell us how old your children are, Joss, and what your relationship's like, because they're still teenagers, and that's a tricky time.
Yeah. So my son is 18.
Yeah.
And he's just gone off to uni in our nearest city, which is like 5 hours away from us. So this has been a big transition for all of us, big change, because we've homeschooled all the way through. So we're really used to being together. And yeah, we text each other every day. We speak to each other frequently. He recently had COVID and was in isolation. So, we FaceTimed for hours and hours every day. Literally one day we were on for 4 hours, and, he's obviously having his adventures and going off on his life and finding his way and making his own choices. But we have this deep connection and this beautiful relationship as well. Lots of fun and laughter and silliness too. Yeah. And my other daughter's 16. So, we're just coming to the end of that navigating of teenagehood. And we are really close, and we have so much fun together. And she has times when she goes off, and increasingly she has her own little adventures, but we always make this time to, reconnect, come back together and have fun and support her through what she's going through. So I feel really blessed with the relationships, and not to say that it's easy, because like I said, I want to be really honest that there's times when it's messy and can be quite ugly sometimes, and it's not always beautiful relationships. But when you've got that core central connection as a result of parenting like this, it's very quick to come back from any upset or messiness to deep connection again. So
do you think it's ever too late to bring this into your parenting?
No, absolutely not. Whatever age your child are, it's never too late to prioritize connection again and to work on your relationship. So no matter how old your child is, it's always possible to listen to feelings more, to offer more connection and playfulness, and to deepen your relationship. Absolutely.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of this. I just really love the aware parenting tenets, and I really appreciate how you've brought it into understanding our babies and toddlers and tantrums and things like that. If people wanted to work with you, Joss, how would they do that? Tell us what you can offer.
So I have a website, which is awareparenting.com.au, and on there it lists all my offerings, but I do one-to-one sessions. I do sessions with both parents, because sometimes there's some disagreement between the parents about how to be parenting their children, especially when you're doing a new type of way of being. So I do sessions with both parents where we try to support everybody to understand and what the best way is for that family to incorporate these ideas. I have some courses, a free course, and some paid courses on my website, and I have memberships, and I post on social media under Aware Parenting with Joss. And I've just started a podcast called Aware Parenting Stories, where I'm just going to be interviewing people who are, parenting coaches and mentors, and talking about all this juicy stuff in more detail. So, those are the ways to connect with me.
Lovely. Well, thank you for coming into our Transform Parenting community and sharing the love and the care and the wisdom that you've obviously brought to your families and obviously your own children. So we're very grateful, and thanks again, Joss.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, me too.